I've been a grant assessor for over 7 years now across idea stage companies all the way through to major art productions and funding for angel investment groups. While I've never taken a manual count, my rough estimate based on the number of grants I've helped assess and the size of those checks, I would have helped issue at least the same, if not over and above the amount of venture capital checks for startup deals, i.e. well into the multi-millions. Each time I am enlisted to review grant applications though, I'm usually wrapped up in a bit of a twist and passionately frustrated with the person who submitted the application. Frequently, the otherwise excellent ideas seem to just miss the mark a little bit here and there, and ultimately I have to kill the application from progressing. I constantly wish I was there when founders are inputting their answers to whisper over their shoulder and say, no, don't write it like that. Write it like this. It's very often only minor adjustments here and there where they either meet the criteria or not. For government grants, it's really very simple. You must, at a minimum, meet all the guideline criteria. Check and double check, making sure you answer the question properly and fully. Sometimes there are really several questions in the one question. It's sneaky, I know. So for example, if it asks you what customer testing was completed and what was the feedback, don't just answer the first part about the tests and then forget about sharing the results and learning. We want to see learning and growth supported by facts, ideally written in steps, not just your personal assumptions and general assertions. What do I mean by facts and data? So again, using the same example, what was tested, how, and by who, i.e. the user and the customer profile, and what was the result with numbers. Share what were the tangible steps taken, what you learned, and how you implemented the changes. Here are some example answers to the question, what customer testing was performed and how did you implement the feedback? Here is an example of a bad answer. Extensive customer tests were conducted over a year, including taste, texture, and flavors. Following each round of testing, we improved on each criteria, with majority of individuals preferring our range compared to other brands. We have now narrowed down the priorities of the 3 flavors we want to launch with. This is an example of a good answer. Extensive customer tests were conducted over a year. During the 5 separate blind taste tests with 20 individuals attending each session, and out of the 100 survey results collected, 82% or 82 individuals ranked our brand of ice cream as the leading favorite brand, scoring a full 5 points against 4 other leading supermarket brands. A further 73% of those tested had a preference for our texture, and out of the 5 flavors on offer, we were able to narrow down the priorities of the 3 flavors we wanted to launch with. Following each round of testing, we swapped out flavors based on feedback and achieved a creamier consistency while also improving on taste test results by 20% on each round. Hopefully you can tell the difference. The first one doesn't say anything about how many tests were involved, how many people attended, and the actual data results of the survey. It also didn't tell you how many brands it was compared to and didn't qualify those brands. Provide data, tangible results, and qualify or define as much as you can. Here's another question. What is the market you are targeting and what is the size? This is an example of a bad answer. The global impact investing market is estimated to grow. We aim to capture the investor segment. After commercializing nationally, we will expand to New Zealand and Asia. We are targeting to have over 1 billion invested by the platform. So there's no timelines, very few numbers, general statements without any backup data. This is an example of an okay answer. The global impact investing market is estimated to reach 1 trillion by 2024. We aim to capture the millennial investor market. After commercializing nationally, we will expand to New Zealand and Asia. By 2027, we are targeting to acquire 96,000 users on the platform. So some numbers, some timelines, some info on the target millennial customer profile. So an improvement? but still, some general statements are not backed up. This is an example of a much better answer. We aim to capture 0.88% of the millennial investor segment by January 2024. This equates to 10,102 investors with a total of 35 million AUD invested by January 2024. After commercializing nationally, we will expand to New Zealand and Asia. The global impact investing market is expected to reach 1 trillion by 2024. In 2020. By 2027, we are targeting to acquire 96,000 users, 6% of the online investing market, and have over 1 billion invested by ordinary Australian citizens in the green energy market. So you can see here it's quantified, there's timelines, there's percentage or proportion of the market included. Having a quoted source is helpful as well and adds credibility, so where possible, add it. This is a lot more clear on what your goal is as a KPI for the company, and for me, the assessor, a clearer picture of ROI for the taxpayer dollars you're requesting. Another problem area is the budget. Again, does it match the guidelines? If it says that you must not allocate more than 20% of the grant funding to a certain category of spend, such as salaries, make sure it's not 20.1%. Check if they mean the project budget, i.e. the total amount of what you're applying for, or only the grant budget, the amount of just the portion of the grant. This is where some applicants get caught out. Make sure you are categorizing the costs in the right areas and cross-checking if a category, i.e. type of costs, such as an existing employee salary versus a new employee, and whether there is a limit for each. If it says you cannot use the funds for event tickets, then make sure any event costs do not include tickets. Be very clear what the event costs are for, i.e. accommodation, booth space, travel, a speaking spot, or physically printing marketing materials. If you are sponsoring an event and that is an allowable cost, make sure you outline what it pays for, i.e. the specific event or events and the size of those events, i.e. the number of attendees or audience size. And even better, an estimation of how many customers you think you could convert for each event. Anything you tie in with customer numbers or revenue is really helpful. Show responsible spending of taxpayer dollars. Demonstrate value for money. Are your projections realistic? Have you been clear about how they are realistic and the steps you are taking to achieve the projections? Ideally with conversion ratios, experience, or something tangible. This is an example of a budget that's not ideal. Categories are included and correct, so that's a good start, but certain detail is lacking, such as what is the travel and accommodation for? Is it for specific events or demos? The same goes for IP and website. Is it for a new website or a trademark registration or just advice? There's also unnecessary repetition. New employee is said 3 times and once is enough. This is an example of a better answer. You can clearly see what the spend is for, and for us grant assessors to be able to tell if this is a reasonable cost. Remember, grants are not the same as pitching for venture capital. I definitely put on a different head when I'm looking through grants. Grants are really looking at realistic spending and satisfying all the basic criteria. I hate to say it, we're effectively ticking a box with these, so don't give us reasons to stop at any boxes or put a cross next to them. We don't want to give the public any reason to say we didn't distribute the funds wisely. With venture capital, we're looking for big ideas and big projects that can 100x or 1,000x our money. While there still needs to be some responsible spending of money, it's achieving that exponential growth that gets us excited. The last thing I'll touch on is coherency, or another way to look at it is consistency. This is sort of obvious, but given the number of applications I've seen who have not done a sanity check on this, it's worth noting. Here again, you want to be checking your numbers. Have you quoted a different number for the same thing in different parts? Does the outline of your business development strategy align with the budget table? For example, if you're going to spend on IP protection to strengthen the application criteria, make sure it's in the actual budget. If you're saying you're going to target enterprises for your software, but everything in your budget shows only messaging to consumers or social media advertising, which again is very B2C centric, then this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The narrative needs to make sense from start to finish. Bonus tip, with AI, yes, I know it exists and it can certainly be a great help with drafting text when you're looking at a blank page, but please review what is written. Assessors can always tell, or at least right now we can tell, when AI is being used, as the responses are usually frequently filled with fluff, i.e. marketing phrases instead of focusing on the facts. If you are going to use AI, you still need to plug in your facts and data. Then use AI to help you write. Try to use a more clinical or professional language prompt as opposed to an engaging one. That will tend to work better for grants versus social media. That's it, some quick tips on how to make your grant application stand out. My rough figures from 7 years of grant assessments is that only 5 to 10% of grants get recommended to the next round. The vast majority of them are ticked off as no's pretty quickly. I'm hoping more of you will get further along to the next round with these tips. Submitting for a grant is a fair amount of work, and you can learn a lot about yourself and how much your idea and business stacks up against others. As someone who is curious by nature, I find the majority of business ideas really intriguing, but it's the application that falls short of telling a concrete case. Many of the grants will have a feedback section that assessors will fill in, and most of us do our best to offer feedback, even if frequently we are repeating ourselves. Like I said, the mistakes are common ones that don't make it through, so make sure you're not one of them if you're serious about securing the grant funding. Next up, are you making the same mistakes as this founder with your investor cold email and pitch?